there was a time when many Republican candidates running for office in this country campaigned on the credibility they had serving and defending our country and our democracy. Watch.
I've served our country all my adult life. I've never lived a day, in good times or bad, I wasn't grateful for the privilege. Now I ask to serve as your president.
But now you could say one of the metrics that the Republican Party is using to field candidates is their service to actually overthrowing our democracy.
One of the greatest issues in Pennsylvania we're facing right now is faith in our voting system. Obviously, since the 2020 election, there's been a lot of questions.
You count the legal votes that were cast in the state of Georgia, Donald Trump won this state, period.
President Trump says the election was stolen, and he's right.
The election was stolen from Donald Trump, and now we're paying the price.
And if those campaign ads don't scare you, well, just listen to Pennsylvania gubernatorial candidate Doug Mastriano doubling down on this comment by saying the quiet part out loud.
As your governor, I get to appoint the Secretary of State, and guess who oversees elections? I do, through the Secretary of State.
That is absolutely scary. But look, comments like these should come as no surprise coming from a candidate who actually attended the January 6th Stop the Steal rally in Washington and was near the Capitol when Trump supporters attacked it. Though Mastriano always likes to say that he left before the riot. Then in March, Mastriano actually flat out ignored a subpoena by the January 6th committee to appear for a deposition. So here's the question. How was he held accountable for these acts? Well, he actually won the Pennsylvania primary, securing him the Republican nomination for governor. Now, these politicians who continue to push the big lie not only face no consequences, but in some cases, they're actually being rewarded politically. And meanwhile, the probe into the insurrection keeps chugging along, and some Trump world figures are actually willing to cooperate, including the former Attorney General. We understand that Bill Barr is in talks with the January 6th committee about testifying before the panel. Now, this could be great news for the Justice Department, who just this week actually asked the committee for transcripts of interviews that it is conducting behind closed doors. And here's the thing. The Department of Justice requesting these transcripts point towards the wide-ranging nature of the department's criminal inquiry. And while the committee says that it is not yet prepared to hand over those documents just yet, they are looking into new evidence of GOP-led tours of the Capitol ahead of the insurrection. In fact, on Thursday, the panel asked Congressman Barry Loudermilk to submit to questioning about a tour of the complex he gave just one day before the riot. The committee said their review of evidence directly contradicts Republicans' denial that security camera footage showed no such tours had taken place. Congressman Loudermilk denies having led any, quote, reconnaissance tour. But hey, the committee didn't say it was a reconnaissance tour. You did, sir. Let's discuss all of this and more with Cynthia Alksne. She's a former federal prosecutor and an MSNBC legal analyst. Cynthia, it's great to see you again. Thank you for making time for us. How concerning is this lack of accountability, especially as we see far-right candidates, some of whom participated in some form in the January 6th rally, run campaigns touting the big lie, saying that the election was stolen, and then still winning their primaries, as we just mentioned there in the case of Pennsylvania gubernatorial candidate Doug Mastriano?
Well, Doug Mastriano got 31% of the vote. That doesn't mean he's going to get elected. I mean, in fact, I think there are a lot of Democrats who are heartened by that because they don't think he will be elected because he represents the far right fringe, and that's sort of his ceiling. That Trump weighing that 31%. Recognize the denial game isn't working in Georgia, where there's not a wide range of candidates. There's only two, and suddenly Purdue isn't doing very well. So, I think that there's a big issue about accountability, but my guess is Mastriano's accountability will come in November and he'll be defeated, and a Democrat will be the governor of Pennsylvania.
All right, so you are definitely more of an optimist than I am, and I definitely respect that because I need that dose of optimism in my life from time to time. But how could this type of campaigning... I'm so glad you say that, because I usually think...
I'm usually like the naysayer, like nothing's going to happen. And I feel like I'm so negative. I'm so happy to be considered an optimist.
No, I was going to say, I mean, look, when you're talking about somebody like Mastriano only having 31%, what scares me the most is I've always seen time and time again, especially this far out in the midterms, the lessons of 2016. When you look at somebody like Donald Trump and say, he's a joke candidate, nobody's going to take him seriously, he's, peddling his xenophobia and his anti-immigrant policies. And yet, as we edge closer to Election Day, things change. And obviously, we're still far out from the midterms, but that leads me to this question, which is how could these types of campaigns and politicians actually affect the midterms? Is this the new normal for the GOP, that the benchmark of people who ran on service to their country and to this democracy, it's now about overturning our democracy and peddling the big lie?
Well, I think it is. I mean, my lane is really the Department of Justice, but you don't have to really be that experienced in American politics to know that the Republican Party is completely disintegrated, and the Republican Party of John McCain and of Lincoln and Grant is gone. And what we have is the Trump Party, and it's a nativist party that's racist and opposed to any immigration. It's anti-Mexican. It's anti-help. It's pro life that it's anti-child. That it supports requiring a woman to have an abortion. I mean, requiring a woman to have a baby, even if she's been raped, or even if that child would endanger her own life. So it's just completely changed. It's not the Republican Party that you think of, and the optimist in me. So I want to give you a little bit of that. Is that the pendulum will swing, and that at some point this 30% of the crazy Trump people will be defeated by the center Republicans, the good old-fashioned Republicans, and the country needs them. Even though I don't always agree with what the Republican Party stood for, it strengthens the country to have two American-oriented parties that we can be proud of, but we don't have it right now.
No, you absolutely bring up a very important point on the need for a democracy to have that diversity. Let me talk to you then about accountability specifically. You have the January 6th committee looking into talking to Congressman Loudermilk. They've subpoenaed Mastriano. But what sense is there that anyone on a government level will actually be held accountable for the insurrection? I mean, we're still waiting on the DOJ action on Mark Meadows' contempt recommendation, and that was 5 months ago. I mean, I know. You know the justice system better than I do, and the wheels of justice in this country have to spin faster in order for people to have confidence that when these laws are broken, people are actually held accountable. Now, we don't have a two-tier system for the privileged and the powerful and the wealthy, and then for the rest of us.
Well, we kind of do right now. That's exactly what we have, and that's the problem. And here, not to be the negative person, but nothing is going to happen to these people before the midterms. And that is because the Department of Justice has this rule, which, always was very stringently enforced when I was there, and that is we do not interfere in elections. And so by August 1, nothing really political is going to happen out of the Department of Justice. And I will say the Attorney General, who I think has been very good on some issues, has not been good on this. He is too cautious. He is too much like a federal judge, pondering himself at the top of the mountain, and not enough of a prosecutor. I mean, here we are, 18 months later. We had an entire fake electors plot to overturn the election, and not one of those electors has been in the grand jury. It's inexcusable. And here we have now the Department of Justice is asking for transcripts. Well, why now? I mean, it's been 18 months. They've been doing interviews for 18 months. It's inexcusable to me. And Meadows and Navarro and Jordan have been, they've been pondering what are they going to do with those possible indictments for 5 months. It's inexcusable. And what's frustrating is, I think for everybody, nothing's happened to Cruz, Hawley, or Lee, who supported it. Nobody's talked to them. Nobody's done anything serious. Nothing's happened to Trump. Nothing's happened to Eastman. Nothing's happened to Giuliani. No lawmaker has really been pushed in any substantive way. And everybody has a right to be negative and depressed about the action and lack of it by the Department of Justice.